We're live on Facebook.
All right.
Say hi to Facebook world, Matt Corbi.
Hey, Facebook. Good morning.
So I just watch it here. So it's a little bit. There's a delay.
Okay.
So and sometimes people will ask questions and whatnot.
So that keeps our overhead down so that we can save our patients money and give them the best possible hearing at the best possible price.
Visit Tom Bryan today at All American Hearing Center on State Farm Road in Boone or call 828-265-3236.
WSOC TV, Severe Weather Center 9, High Country Weather.
Here we go.
Today, lots of sunshine and warming up. We're back in the low 70s this afternoon. It won't be nearly as cool tonight.
That microphone a little closer to you.
Tomorrow, we're looking at highs in the upper 70s.
Okay, Jimmy, while mics are going live in 3, 2, 1.
Good morning. Welcome to Recovery Talk, the show that tries to bring some hope and help for hurting people. It's Thursday, 10:30, and my name is Jim Quigley. I'm here with you every Thursday. Well, I've missed a couple Thursdays here and there, but you know what? It's been just over a year now. I've been doing this show, and it's been a lot of fun. And the show is made possible because of our show sponsor, Freedom Auto Tech. Freedom Auto Tech is a local mechanic shop in here in town. If you've ever driven on 421 heading out towards Tennessee, you've seen the dive shop here in Boone. We're right next to that dive shop. So Freedom Auto Tech is a local auto shop here ready to give you professional service, while at the same time you can know as a customer the profits and proceeds go to support men in Christian recovery through Freedom Farm Ministries. So if you got a problem in your car, go get it fixed and support a good cause all at the same time. If you want to get on their schedule, give them a call. If you got a question, give them a call, 828-355-4434. That's 828-355-4434. Freedom Auto Tech, give them a call. So this morning, I'm pleased to have a guest with me, a good friend of mine. I think we were talking about the other day, about 6 years we've known each other. This is my friend Matt Corbi.
Good morning.
Morning, Matt. Thanks for coming in the show this morning. So Matt and I met at Freedom Farm, like I said, 6 years ago, and Matt ended up serving with our ministry for about
4 years.
4 years.
Probably 4 years, yeah, serving with him.
And has since moved on, and he is now employed in town. And we were recently talking. We still go to church together, still see each other here and there. We're not obviously as close as we were before because we're not in it every day. But my friend Matt's doing it. You know, he's still living it. He came here a mess. He had an experience here that changed his life. Life is not rainbows and unicorns, but it's a lot better than when I met you 6 years ago, isn't it?
No question. Absolutely.
So he's come to come and share his journey with us today. So thanks again, Matt, for being here.
Absolutely.
And the show is yours, my friend.
Okay, so good morning, Boone. So like Jim was saying, I came here about 6 years ago. I remember the date I got here. It was August 29th, 2013. I'm a native to Maryland. I am not a Southerner. I still got a Northerner Yankee personality to me, but I'm 39 years old. I grew up in a little town called Ellicott City, Maryland, which is kind of outside of Baltimore and between the District of Columbia. So I was there pretty much 35 years of my life. I've moved around a little bit. I spent some time down in South Carolina with a good friend of mine who was the gentleman who introduced me to Freedom Farm. His name is John. I worked with him at a church up in Maryland for several years. He became like a second dad to me, and almost like a best friend.
Awesome.
And he had was talking to me about this place called Freedom Farm for a long time in Boone, North Carolina. Okay, Boone, North Carolina. You keep telling me Boone, North Carolina. Where is Boone, North Carolina? This did not ring a bell to me at all. I was not feeling it.
What's funny is that you said you're a Northerner, but there's a whole term that describes people called halfbacks here. You know that move down to
What is that, Jimmy?
a halfback.
A halfback.
Yeah,
Okay.
halfbacks go from the northern states down to Florida, and Florida's a little too much for them, so they come halfway back and they stop here in Boone.
I've never heard that.
No?
Neither have I.
There's a ton of them here.
Neither have I.
Yeah.
But some people would actually probably question if I really am a northerner, because I mean, we're technically below the Mason-Dixon line, but we're Maryland. I'm not like New York, so. But
when I was in college, I went to a Christian college. I think you know that.
Yes.
There was an event that every year. They actually had to change the name because of political correctness a few years ago, I found out. But they used to call it the North-South flag football game. So all the students that were from the North would form a team, and all the Southern students would form a team. And there was always a big argument on who technically was a Norther because of the Mason-Dixon line. There was a lot of people that did not feel they were Southern, even though they were on this side of it. So anyway.
So, all that said, so how did I end up here? Why am I still here 6 years later? There's a lot to it. If you had asked me when I first came here, would I be still living in Boone, North Carolina? Absolutely. I love it here, but I just couldn't see it. I mean, I'm so used to being up there and
So before coming to Boone, though,
right.
who is Matt Corbi? When you were in Maryland,
right,
your family, what ended up happening to you, my friend?
So I need to figure out how to if I should start going backwards or forwards. So I grew up in a middle-class family. I have two older brothers. We are all 3 years apart. It was planned that way. One has autism. So there were some changes that happened. I can't remember all the bits and pieces, but I grew up, like I said, in a middle-class family with a mom and a dad in a good home. And, of course, I was so young, I didn't really know what was going on behind the scenes. I had no idea in terms of the relational dynamics and the relationship, but it was not good. My mom and dad had separated when I was 7 years old. My dad had walked out. And so up until that point, I had gone to Catholic school. I had several friends. I had close friends. I was very social. Life was good. And when that divorce happened, it split the family up. It took me away from not only Catholic school, the friends that I knew, but it took me away from my neighborhood, and it moved me into a whole new environment. And I had started to go to public school. And because of some changes that were happening in my life, just with family and all that, there was a dramatic event that happened. Still one of the most traumatic events that I remember in my life was being in third grade, and the staff coming one day to me and saying, we feel it is in our best interest that we take you back a year.
Oh, okay.
We take you back, and I was in third grade, and I remember just breaking down and just being in a corner the whole rest of the day, and all these kids looking at me, and this in the back, crying. I mean, I've been crying in tears. What is going on here? And it was that moment, it changed my life. I became, as of that point, a socially inept individual. And from that point on, didn't know how to interact with kids. You're moving forward. I was all internal. I was the kind of kid who, at recess, would be so fearful to sit down with kids. I would skip eating lunch.
Wow.
I would skip eating lunch, and I would hang out in the media center reading books. And so there's good and bad to that, because while I'm an introvert, I became early on a learner and very smart, but inside, and enjoying learning, and especially science was my big thing, and still is. As you'll see, also theology is also my second big thing, or first probably. But yeah, socially I was a broken individual.
So how old were you in third grade? I'm trying to remember. About 9.
Maybe 9.
Yeah. Wow.
8 or 9.
Yeah.
So this traumatic event when you're 9 years old had a lifelong lasting effect on you.
Yeah. So in biology, there are critical periods that we know about in development. I mean, in animals, it's a little bit earlier on, but in humans, it does happen kind of around that period. Sensitive periods in which we change. And that was one of them for me. That age would shape much of my life. And it was also early on, believe it or not, I was exposed to chemical substances. Now, I didn't have an addiction problem at that point, but because of my social problems and learning abilities, I was prescribed Ritalin.
Okay.
So, like a lot of people, alcohol, marijuana, maybe their first substances, not mine. It was Ritalin, and there were some things about that I did not like coming off of it. But when I was exposed to it, there was something about it I enjoyed. Wow, this makes me feel different. Okay, for about 45 minutes, I feel social. I feel up.
Yeah.
I feel very different.
Well, it's amphetamines. So.
Yeah. And I liked it. Now, of course, it was controlled at that point. You know, my family would get it for me and give it to me, or the school would. So but that was my first time. And there were periods on it, I like this. I feel different. I feel good. As opposed to how I felt inside.
Okay.
So that was the beginning. But as we'll see, it didn't happen much later on until the addiction became full blown. And there were things about it, as we can talk about, that also had.
So take us to that point. So you're 9 years old, this event, and then progress. You know, you're on Ritalin. You can look back. I don't know if you remembered it at the moment, or this is a hindsight thing, but you look back and knowing it was changing you socially, you liked it.
Absolutely.
So when did that turn into an addiction problem?
So it turned into an addiction in college.
Okay.
So all the way through high school and all that, I still didn't have addiction. Well, probably I did, but I had issues with sleeping because of stimulants. I started taking some over-the-counter sleeping meds, and so slowly it
You're trying to balance yourself out.
balanced myself out.
You're kind of on an amphetamine high through your ADD medication, and then trying to balance it out, sleep through sleeping pills.
Because I couldn't sleep.
That's a bad habit to get into.
Yeah. And as you'll see, it continued. It continued. Amphetamine. Well, Adderall's. Ritalin and amphetamines. They're all very close but different. So in college, I was exposed to amphetamine salts, Adderall, and I even loved it more.
Yeah.
I loved it more, and so this is where the addiction really started to take off every day. But
so about 19 because of being held back.
19. Yeah.
Okay.
19 years old. But.
All right. Well, look. When we come back from this commercial break, we're going to pick up your story when you're in college and your addiction starts to take off. So, folks, stay with us. Matt Corbi will be back with me in just a minute. How long is this commercial break?
2.5 minutes. What do you mean? They just told you they were going to.
I'll be right back.
You were in 3rd grade and they were going to put you back in 2nd?
Yeah.
And what was the purpose of it? You were never given an explanation.
Not really. Not really.
And you had no parents in your corner.
Well, my dad left. My mom, she had her hands full with 2. It was a mess. No explanation. I didn't have.
And how were your grades at that point?
Average. I had just kind of. And in the beginning, it went
You know, I
on.
went to private schools too, and a lot of stuff they did was really bad. It's amazing many of those teachers didn't end up in jail
Yeah.
for some of the stuff they did. I remember we had a 2nd grade teacher, and I don't think she ever married, and she just was not very good to the kids at all. And if she was a teacher today, I would say she probably would have been fired. Like that. Very cruel woman. And I remember my dad had to put her in her place because she kept picking on me about stuff that I never even did nothing. And it's like I told Jimmy, when I was a kid, I was very violent. And I remember one girl, this is a girl, and I'm 7 years old, and she fabricated a story. I'm not going to get into it. And this idiot believed her. It was later cleared up. But I nearly killed that girl. I ran her down on the way home. I said, "Who told you that?" And I grabbed her and threw her into the street. She nearly got hit by a car.
Jeez, Mike Kelly.
Yeah. That girl turned as white as a ghost and never bothered with me again. Yeah, I was extremely violent at a young age. It took a lot of self-control. I wouldn't have thought twice to attack you if you pissed me off. Jimmy, you got 15 seconds. Mike are live in 5, 3, 2, 1. Mics are live.
Welcome back to Recovery Talk, Hope and Help for the Hurting here in the High Country. I'm James Quigley. I'm here with my friend Matt Corbi. But before we get back into Matt's story, we wanted a quick shout out to who makes this show possible, Freedom Auto Tech. Freedom Auto Tech is the local mechanic shop here in town that's ready to give you good service, and you can know as a customer at the same time that your the money, the profits are going to support Freedom Farm Ministries, which is a 1-year Christian recovery program for men here in High Country. So if you got a problem in your car, know that you can get it fixed and support a good cause at the same time. 828-355-4434. That's 828-355-4434. Give them a call. Get on the schedule. They're ready to give you some good service to your vehicle. Matt, so college... that's when your drug career starts to take off.
Drug career, yeah. So I was at University of Maryland. I went there and studied biology, and I was a decent student. I mean, as I was using amphetamines, even though I saw it becoming an addiction and a problem, that's not really where things. I shouldn't say it was manageable, but it was not out of. I mean, it was not out of control. So we need to get into a class of drugs called opiates.
Okay.
All right. So, some point in my kind of all over the place. So, some point in my my college years, I was having a lot of problems with my teeth, and I started having my wisdom teeth taken out. Okay. This was the first time I had ever been exposed to hydrocodone, and I'm gonna be honest with you. This was the gate. This was the door that opened it all. So I don't want to get into war stories. I want to be here to offer men and also women hope and recovery, because there is recovery and it is possible. And I have been clean over 6 years. I have not gone back to any substance, and there's a reason for that. And part of most of my story has to do with God and Jesus Christ, and I want to talk about that. But let's go back and look at opiates. So I remember the first time taking opiates and just laying down on my bed. Oh my God, I'm laying back, and I'm in a world of euphoria.
Oh yeah.
I'm in a world of euphoria. Kind of just. All the relationships in my life seem great. All the circumstances seem great. Everything seems great. I like this. And like that, I'm off. I mean, I'm not talking a break. It starts. And doctor shopping, going to the ER, whatever. And then later on, I had a bout of kidney stones. Kidney stones, I had to be admitted to the ER, and they gave me a drug called hydromorphone, and even more potent and powerful, and that really is what started me off in going down the road of using oxycodone and stuff like that. And it didn't end there. It started with even anxiety medications, because I had problems with anxiety.
Would you say the benzodiazepams?
Let me tell you something about benzodiazepines. So, if any of you have ever abused benzodiazepines for a long period of time, and have
this being the drug, so if people know that, like Valium, Ativan, Xanax, these are all benzodiazepines.
Yeah. Opiates bring a whole class, a whole issue of problems when it comes to withdrawal. But if you want to know some withdrawal, try being on benzodiazepines for an extended period of time.
Actually, do not try this, folks.
No, I'm sorry.
I'm
sorry.
kidding.
Yeah, no. you will not sleep.
Yeah.
I guarantee you will not sleep. You will feel like your skin is crawling with bugs. You will have panic attacks that will make you feel like you were dying. And this is a class of substances that can kill you coming off of them.
Yeah, there's
Unlike-
actually two drug withdrawals that can
Yeah.
kill a person. One is alcohol, and the other one is coming off benzodiazepines.
Yeah.
So you can die from withdrawal from both these. All the other drugs, you'll feel like crap, but it won't kill you.
Yeah.
So
And so I'm feeling in bits and pieces, so I started taking benzos. I started taking, started doing a lot of other sleeping pills like Ambien. Ambien is a nightmare pill. I don't understand how it's still a controlled force substance. It should be a class 2, in my opinion. So imagine this going on for like 8-9 years, right? I had gone to several, early on I had gone to several treatment programs. My mom said, we need to get you help. So let's see, one of the first place I ever went to was a place called Cirque Lodge out in Provo Canyon, Utah. I was not about real recovery. Yeah, I wanted to go to the comfortable, lavish place. So if you look at this place, this is a place where celebrities go. And I was there. I detoxed in Salt Lake City, then went out to this place and was there for maybe a week. I needed to go back. I couldn't. I was not ready. And there was
so your family dynamics afforded you some really high dollar recovery and stuff.
some high dollar recovery. I went to a place called Ashley. It used to be called Father Martin Ashley in Maryland. Now it's Ashley Addiction. Phenomenal place. And I don't want to knock any of these places. They all had something that they taught me. They truly did. I was just not ready for recovery. So if you've heard of these places, great places. I am not knocking them down. Every one of them, even the place down in Virginia, William Partley place, had helped me learn tools and about addiction. But as you're going to see, Freedom Farm, a place that is not lavish. Okay, it's
Hey,
not.
come on now.
I'm sorry, it's not lavish. You don't have
a chef
a
making
chef
you dinner.
making you
Yeah.
dinner. You don't have necessarily air conditioning. You don't get massages. You don't get any of this stuff. What you come to is a place that you're going to be working. You're going to have you're going to spend a lot of time in the Word and serving. But so all those places didn't work.
So let me get your timeline real quick. So about 9 years. What happened to college at that point? Dropped out?
I had gone back and forth, so I hadn't completely dropped out, but I was struggling.
For 9 years you kept going,
Yeah.
kept signing up for enough
Signing
to stay
up.
in college.
And
Not let the student loan, well, you probably didn't have student loans. but
not at that time.
that's usually a trick you do with student loans. You just like sign up for enough to keep
Yeah.
them at bay. But anyway, so doctor shopping. You had quite a strange drug, amphetamines to opiates to benzos to sleeping pills. I mean, man, you were up and down, up and down, up and down.
We need to talk about the one that I think kept me in addiction.
Okay.
That did not help. If we can do that.
Sure.
So there is a drug called, I think a lot of people know, Suboxone. Okay, Suboxone is used as a maintenance therapy for recovery. Here's the problem I want to talk about with Suboxone. All right, if I can get into a little bit. They give it to addicts that want to get off of what you call full agonist opiates, like oxycodone and all that. If you look at buprenorphine and Suboxone, it's sort of like a key, right, that unlocks the lock halfway, right? It doesn't, so it has a sealing effect to it.
Yeah.
So, unlike other opiates like oxycodone and all that, you can keep taking them and taking them and taking them because it completely activates the receptor fully. And so people go into respiratory depression because of that.
Right.
And you can keep increasing your dose and your tolerance keeps raising and all that. But Suboxone is used because it has that sealing effect. However, it still has the properties of opiates.
Right.
It still causes the euphoria, even though it diminishes after a period of time because of that sealing effect. The euphoria is still there. It's just you don't really notice it. It still numbs you out. It still brings all the physical dependencies to it. It is a very potent opiate in terms of its binding affinity. It is hell coming off of. So this was my crutch.
You were on
This
it
was
for,
my crutch.
I was on it on and off for a
Okay.
long time too.
this is what kept me dropping out of rehabs. I wanted to go back to this Suboxone. I loved it. For that reason, I felt like I was in recovery. Because
You weren't.
I was not.
You weren't drooling, but
Right.
you weren't in your mind sober either.
Right. And I want to talk about, I don't know how much time we have, but my
Well,
relationship
we're coming up
with...
on a break here in just a minute.
45 seconds.
We got about
Okay.
45 seconds. But
So-
you know what? Let me just give you a quick thing. Okay, there's a lot of controversy with Suboxone right now. I will say right now it's probably saving lives. Okay, as in people aren't dying from opiates. But I do have probably a lot to say about whether people are finding true freedom and recovery through it. That's a big debate right there. So I don't want to.
Yeah.
I think Suboxone right now is saving people's lives. They're not dying from opiates because they're on it, but I do believe that there's something past Suboxone too. So anyway, we're coming up on a quick break. So when we come back, we'll pick up there. Okay. So stick with us, folks. Matt and I will be back just after this commercial break.
You got time. We're going to go into the news at the top of the hour. You got time. I've never heard of any of these.
I'm glad you
Suboxone?
clarified that, though, because I don't want
And
to...
didn't you say one gave you bad nightmares?
Ambien probably gave you.
Ambien,
Really?
yeah.
How are these drugs on the market?
Ambien is on the market for a sleep aid. It actually had commercials on that stuff for a while.
Do you
Yeah, but if it gives you nightmares, what would you go to sleep for?
What's that?
Well, it causes you to make weird phone calls. It's just
Are you serious?
Do you remember that controversy when Roseanne Barr tweeted and she got fired from her last elevator?
yeah.
She said that was an Ambien tweet. She had taken her Ambien that night and she tweeted that racial slur or whatever. So it's that common in our culture where
I don't
people.
understand how in the world something that dangerous can even be on the market. Oh my God. Don't these doctors govern this?
No.
I went to one doctor, and I'll be doggone, he kept wanting to feed me different drugs every time, and I just went to another doctor. I just ain't into that stuff, man.
Bishop criticized his opponent standing beside a stand
Oh, please.
Yeah.
You want to do your 2 p.m. press conference with this cardboard cutout. It'll have as much to say as Dan McCready will today.
I'll tell you what, everybody in Washington seems to be a cardboard cutout to me. How about you?
Yeah. I'm interested to see what happens today. There's the big immigration rollout today, immigration plan.
Really?
Oh my God.
You know, my wife is in the process of becoming a naturalized citizen, and she passed her citizenship test yesterday, so she probably gets sworn in next month.
That's crazy.
No matter what your insurance needs may be, auto, life, health, home, rental, small business. No matter what your insurance needs may be, auto, life, health, home, rental, small business.
You're doing great, man. We're about halfway through.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool. So maybe we should get into now, maybe...
Well, let's finish up. You know, what ended up, you know, what your life ended up being like, and then kind of what was. I know you've already mentioned your friend. Like how are those things connected to you sending you up here finally?
Yeah, there were some friendships I lost that killed me. I mean, broke me. Like, God, there's some people in my life that I don't have anymore.
Jimmy, I don't know how, I swear to God, Jimmy, I cannot believe some of the stuff. Wow. I can't believe a lot of this stuff is even on the market.
Oh man, you see these guys, Purdue Pharma, are going to prison now.
Really?
Oh yeah, the guys that were pumping OxyContin. You know, the executives.
That's crazy.
You know what was on? You know what was reported? These guys that had this pill, OxyContin. Okay, they got one study. It was one study, right? And it said that this is a non-addictive substance, whereas they have hundreds of them that say this. It is. So they took this one study and they went to doctors and said, see, look at this. We have a peer-reviewed study that says it's a non-addictive substance. And they said, look, this is how you prescribe it to people. Give them, start off with 10, check with them in a week or two, ask them if it's working. If not, then up at 10. You know, you can just keep it up at 10. Don't worry about it. It's non-addictive. And let me tell you something. If you ever take a 10 milligram oxy and you get a buzz off of it, of course you're going to tell them you need more.
Golly, that's crazy.
But at the same time, these guys were buying up buprenorphine patents or whatever you want to call it.
Really?
Yeah, the stuff that helps, what he was talking about, that is now sold as the drug to help you get off that drug.
Yeah.
So they were basically double dipping on both sides. They were helping
gosh.
prescribe the stuff that's getting people addicted, and they also were selling the stuff that supposedly gets people off of it.
That is insane.
Yeah. A lot of it was happening here in North Carolina. I think Purdue is here in North Carolina, near Wilson. We have a guy here at our program. He's been on the show before. He lived in Wilson, and he had friends that worked at the factory that were sneaking pills out of it.
Provide you with a small business insurance policy that will meet your needs for your personal investment. Like a good neighbor, they will be at your side.
Who is that?
in your time of
That's
need.
the voice.
Andrea McDonough,
That's
State
Bill?
Farm Insurance, Boone Heights Shopping Center, 264-2744.
He's got a Sinatra voice. Guys, we're going to be on 31 seconds. And Jimmy, I can't believe some of the stuff. Holy God. And when you tell me some of the stuff you did, my God, my mouth is dry. I can never see you like that. I swear to God, Jim, I mean
I
it.
know.
My wife saw you and that baby. She thought, well, what a cute. I said, you wouldn't believe the background that poor guy came through. She's like, what? I said, yeah. Here we go, guys.
Welcome back to Recovery Talk, Hope and Help for the Hurting here in the High Country. I'm Jim Quigley. This is a weekly show here every Thursday, starting at 10:30, going to 11:30. And today we have Matt Corbi with us. Before we pick back up on your story, Matt, Freedom Auto Tech is the business here in town that is makes this show possible. And they are a professional mechanic shop here, ready to give you good service. And you can know as a customer at the same time that the profits and proceeds go to support men in Christian recovery here in the High Country through Freedom Farm Ministries. So you got a problem with your car, go get it fixed, get good work done, and support a good cause all at the same time. Give them a call, 828-355-4434. That's 828-355-4434, Freedom Auto Tech. All right, Matt. So before we get into kind of like how you got to Freedom Farm,
Sure.
You were just telling us that your thing was that the buprenorphine, which comes in two major forms, Suboxone and Subutex, out of the market right now. Basically, I tell people it's the modern day methadone. Methadone used to be the preferred treatment for people who are struggling with heroin, opiates,
Right.
but now Suboxone has become that. Even though still today, just interesting side fact, methadone has a higher success rate than than buprenorphine does. I just went to a lecture at the hospital and learned that a couple months ago. But anyway, that was the thing that you can trace back in your mind, keeping you basically in it.
Right.
And we did say, and you said, I appreciate you mentioning that. I will say 72,000 people dying of overdose in 2017, I will say the more buprenorphine on the market is probably going to save lives from people dying from the opiates. But again, I personally don't think it's doing much for people finding freedom.
Right,
So.
and I should clarify, for those that are out there that are struggling with opiate addiction, you're right. It's saved, because of that ceiling effect I talked about, it's saving people's lives, okay? There's no question.
And if you take Suboxone, you can't use opiates. Subutex, I think you can still use opiates.
You can try, but it's so potent in terms of its binding affinity on the receptor that other opiates cannot even attach to it.
Right. So
you can try it, but it's not worth it.
it's not going to work.
No.
Right. So tell us, my friend, like near the end, kind of what happened. What was the catalyst to finally? You've been to posh rehabs, places that cost more money than we want to even talk about.
Right.
So what ended up happening to bringing you to Freedom Farm, which you rightly described? There's nothing lavish about this place.
No.
So
towards the end of the addiction, like, so imagine I'm going through my years of use with money and all that. Everything seems fine. To the last couple of years, my friendships, my good relationships, my best friend from high school who introduced me to Jesus Christ, who led me to Christ, who introduced me to my friend that brought me down here. Because of my addiction, I destroyed that friendship, along with my family. And another good friend of mine, to this day, I miss very much. Their family tried to save me. They brought me into their house because my mom couldn't handle it anymore. I stayed under their roof. I killed it. I killed the relationship. And so everything was falling apart. Now, here comes the legal issues. What's breaking me? I'm to the point where I'm using 24/7 everything, uppers and downers, awake, asleep.
weren't you at one point living in a van?
Yes.
Okay.
I was living.
I remember that from your story.
Living in my van, and I was also like.
Was it down by the river? No, I'm just kidding.
Chris Farley. It might as well been.
Yeah.
I mean, you should have seen this van when they impounded. Oh my God, what they found in there was gross.
Yeah.
But that's what happens when you're in the bondage of addiction. You don't care how you're taking care of yourself. You don't care what you're putting in your vehicle. So it's a vehicle. So imagine I was driving it too.
Sorry to throw you off in your story. So
no, that's fine. So when for somebody like me who grew up with no legal problems for a long time, when you start bringing police into it and you start bringing the law, and then you possibly bring the option of having your freedom taken away and put in jail, things start to change. They certainly did for me. Being arrested, okay, spending one night, and then being let go. But then you're going to learn very quickly. Don't ever fail to appear for court.
Yeah,
okay?
sure.
All right. I was arrogant, stupid. I'm above the law, but they're not going to catch me. They're not going to care. So I had a failure to appear. And, for driving under the influence, I don't show up. Guess what happens?
They pick you up.
Oh, they picked me up.
Yeah.
They picked me up, and I'm thinking, yeah, I'm
Just let you back go.
I'm gonna come back to my house where all my stuff is. Mom, brother, nope.
Nobody helped you.
Nobody helped me. We are done. You are gonna sit. You are gonna sit there in jail until your court date, which happens to be 50 days. Now that may not be a lot to some people. I understand a lot of people have spent time in jail for longer periods, but for me, where I came from, and guess what? They don't. I mean, it wasn't a terrible jail, but they have to help you come off stuff a little bit, especially benzos, because of the legal issues there. But as far as coming up with the Suboxone and everything else I was on, nope. You're gonna withdraw cold turkey. So this began the descent into an eye-opening experience for me. I was suffering. I'd never felt this much discomfort and pain in my life.
Sure.
Not sleeping for 3 weeks. Hardly eating, having a mild seizure, and being locked up. And so you can imagine. I don't need to go into any more details, but that was the point that broke me. And so when I got out, my brother said, "You're going to call the founder." He was the founder originally of Freedom Farm, Robbie Kelly. I'd called him beforehand, a couple months before that.
You did?
It didn't last long. I said, "Hey." He picked up the phone. I said, "So are you ready to come down?" I said, "I need to kind of maybe get myself together." He said, "All right, son, we'll talk to you later." He wasn't ready.
Yeah.
But when I got out of being locked up, I called him the next day. He said, "When can you be down here? I want you down here within 24 hours, 48 hours. I said, "We're going to do it. We're going to do it." And so that was August 2013. I came down here.
So you spent 50 days in jail, probably one of the worst experiences of your life, going through detox in jail.
Yeah.
And right after that, you called back to Freedom Farm that you'd previously called and said, I'm ready to come now.
I'm ready to come now. Yep.
Okay.
And I'm here. And I'm dropped off at Alliance Bible Fellowship wearing bathing shorts.
Bathing shorts.
A bathing suit. Like I had my, I don't know, I was not thinking, I was like somebody told me in the ministry, I was like a wet puppy dog coming in.
And this was your friend in South Carolina that drove you here?
Brother. My brother did.
Your brother?
Yeah,
okay, I'm sorry.
My older brother drove me here. So I don't know what I was getting into. I don't remember a lot of my first days here because I was not physically well. I had lost a lot of weight. I was still in what you call post-acute withdrawal, which can last for a long time.
Especially when you're coming off some of the things that you're coming off of.
So there's something I want to talk about in the recovery aspect that made the difference. A lot of people come to Freedom Perm, like any rehab, with a goal set that when I get here, I'm going to decide when I leave. I'm going to decide my recovery time, okay? The nice thing about what I had was I didn't have kids or I didn't have a wife to go back home to. All I had was time. All I had was time. And no more enabling, too. And so when I got here, the first year of being here was the hardest. Let me tell you something about recovery. If you're not willing to suffer in recovery, I don't believe it's going to work. Okay, when I talk about suffering, you have to imagine you're putting yourself through all this stuff. You're going to deal with depression. You're going to deal with anxiety. You're going to deal with being uncomfortable in your skin. It's part of it. So I dealt with this, but yet I hang on. What was helping me this time? What was making the difference for me? So I have never been an atheist. Ever since I was a kid. I remember I was 6 years old. I remember going outside and looking up at the night sky and just feeling the Creator's hand on my heart.
Okay.
And I was 6 years old, and I remember, this is no lie, I'm your Creator, and I made this. That was the first time God ever laid His hand on me. But as we'll see, I didn't know what it meant to have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ until I was 21 years old. And this was before I really got heavily into drugs. But we're going to see that the Bible, the words in the Bible, the living Christ, is what set me free. And how does it set a person free? Well, I know with all my heart, I've been to AA. They have some of it right. I mean, they now talk about this higher power, so even they acknowledge the need for a higher power and surrender. Right? Now, they don't necessarily talk about Jesus Christ, right?
So hold the thought,
Sure.
because you're getting into a pretty deep subject, and we will finish up your story when we come back after this break. But stick with us, folks, and we will be back, and we'll finish up Matt's story. But hang in there. We'll be right back.
Probably going for hours talking.
Huh?
Probably talk for hours.
And when you guys come back, this is a 2-minute break. You'll have Jimmy 11 minutes.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
okay.
But you're doing fine, man. You're doing great.
Doing great.
Yeah.
Like I said, kid, going through a lot of rough times.
Yeah.
And that's like I've always said, it's the people you surround yourself with that make the difference of who you really are. And the people that you associate with are normally the ones that will either make you or they'll break you. And self-control is so important. And people, sometimes it takes them more than one time to learn it.
Is that Bill Fisher too doing this?
That's Bill Fisher again.
He's doing a sling blade.
They got other stuff too, like pancakes and sandwiches and french fries. So now I go to the bakery all the time. They say they like the way I talk. The end.
That was a good movie.
Yeah, it was.
I'll tell you what, my respect for Billy Bob Thornton really grew due to that movie, because I didn't think much of him as an actor until I saw him take this role, and it took me a while to find out that, I'm like, again, my son goes, that's Billy Bob Thornton. I'm like, get out of here.
Yeah.
He goes, it is, and I swear to God, my respect for him grew tenfold after that role.
But you being a sports guy, you know what Billy's best movie is.
What?
Friday Night Lights.
I've read the book. I couldn't put it down.
You got to see that. Welcome back to Recovery Talk. My name's Jim Quigley. This show tries to bring some hope and help for hurting people, and it's brought to you by Freedom Auto Tech, which is a local auto shop here in town, ready to give you professional service on your vehicle. And you can know as a customer at the same time that the profits go to support men in recovery through Freedom Farm Ministries, a one-year Christian program here in High Country. And you got two people on the show today, myself, the host, and my friend Matt here, that are success stories from Freedom Farm Ministries. So go out and support Freedom Farm by getting your car fixed at a professional shop. 828-355-4434. It's 828-355-4434. All right, Matt. So you started to mention, and I'm not saying that you're down in 12-step recovery. I've had a journey through 12-step recovery myself. I spent a lot of time there. Then I was like Mr. AA, and then I went totally to the other side where I was like anti-AA, and now I'm back central. And you know what I realized? That a lot of people that promote wrong AA are people that really just don't read the material,
Right.
you know? Because a lot of the stuff that's said at a lot of those meetings and whatnot, you can't actually find in the big book, you know, which it has spawned all kinds of other, 12-step type of programs. But anyway, it's also for people that have found freedom, one of our biggest mission fields. So,
So
go ahead.
yeah, helping people find freedom, like you say, is a mission field. So how do we do that? I'm a walking success story, and I've stayed clean and sober for over 6 years. And how do you do that? You certainly don't do it waking up every day, not doing something. No, absolutely. So, for example, for me, I'm gonna tell you right now, slow down. If you were in the need for recovery, don't rush it.
Speaking on that, I mean, here it is. A lot of people. One of the factors that deter them from Freedom Farm is that we ask you to make a 1-year commitment to our program. Right. Now, it doesn't mean we kick you out at 12 months. It means that we want you with the mindset that I'm here for a year. Right. I have committed to that. I'm here for a year. So we just take all this worrying about tomorrow off the table. Because you're here for a year, okay? So we don't need to talk about that, right? But most people, including yourself, find out after a year, you know what, I need a little bit more time.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. So, I mean, we've seen in the past with other experiences it didn't work very well, 28 days or whatever. You can't expect the body is going to recover if you've been doing something for over 15 years. You're changing your brain. You think it's just going to all get better within a year? Like I said, there has to be several elements that you're going to have to want it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
The aspect of surrender there is a must. You have to want it. But what I'm saying though, with the surrender though, comes suffering and discontent and being very uncomfortable. My hardest year at Freedom Farm was that year, with battle and depression, and with anxiety and just not feeling normal, and it continued. Like you said, life is not rainbows and unicorns. It is still every day a challenge. However, the time factor of being around the accountability, getting in a routine of prayer, spending time praying every day, dying to yourself, spending time in this book, which I wish everybody could see, is 100% the Word of God, and you only see that when you spend time in it. Mm-hmm. Faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the Word of God. It changes you. It changes you within.
You know,
And
that
it did for
experience,
me.
the experience you're talking about, a lot of times, you know, guys are within a couple months frustrated and confused, and they're having a hard time. And I always try to, like what you just said, I always try to tell them, like, look, how old are you? You know, and they, you know, I'm 33. I go, look, man, you've been doing it a certain way for 33 years, okay? This isn't going to be something that just totally makes sense and clicks overnight. I mean, you're going to take some time, man, to unlearn 33 years worth of behavior, okay? So give it some time. You know, one of the things about recovery that it's just a no-brainer, but, you know, people that suffer, that come from an addiction background, they're instant gratification junkies. They always say it. You know, we want it now. We want it, and we learn that from our substance abuse, especially IV drug users. You know, it's like instantaneous pleasure, and they take that thinking into recovery. And there's no magic from what you're just saying. It's like, you know, time. It just takes time, being sober, and addressing life differently. You know. And obviously, specifically for you and I, it was bringing Christ into the conversation and how we're dealing with life, how we're looking at life. That's been the freeing factor for me and you too.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely.
But yeah, there's no magic behind, you know, time. You know, time is where you're going to start learning different. You know, so. And
the thing is, like you said, Instagram. There is some qualities that still stick and remain with you.
Yeah, sure.
This instant gratification, I still wrestle with it in different areas, but like, I have to have this now. I have to know this now. I can't wait. I still wrestle with a lot of the same with things, but I don't go to the stuff that gave me an easy fix.
Mm-hmm.
I wrestle with it before God, you know, through different ways, you know, and time, it gets better. It really does. The triggers, they diminish.
Mm-hmm.
Every now and then, yeah, I do have deep cravings that last for maybe 9-10 seconds. But time is a huge factor. It gives your brain time to heal and to readjust. And so it made a huge difference. And I know that everybody doesn't have that kind of time that I did. I came back and I worked for Freedom Farm.
Yeah, you. The audience doesn't know. Like during your first year, you actually had a job here in town. We don't need to talk about who you worked for,
right,
or if you don't want to. But anyway, you worked at a regular place. You're working, and you did the routine. And then after a year of that, you said, "Hey, you know what? If you guys." Or did we present it to you?
You presented it to me.
Yeah, I think I was like, hey, you know what? Did you want to maybe, you know, come work with us for a while? And you stayed with us for years. Yeah.
And even that, the experience of now going back and working for the ministry even built me, because, I mean, I'm no different than any of the other guys. Now I'm working for the ministry, but it's kind of like being in a pressure cooker.
Yeah.
A little bit, you know. Conflict. We don't talk much about I hate conflict. I still hate conflict to today, but I've gotten better with it. But it was always around you. People needing stuff, you know. You need to be there for others and the conflict. But it really brought me out of my shell a lot from being an introvert.
Yep.
But I came back and I taught for the ministry, you know, back and forth with different faces, and
you learn that little secret that the teacher becomes the biggest learner. So
yeah.
So
and I got still and I let it be. I let it unfold.
So in the last few minutes, my friend, you've finished your time with Freedom Farm. You've moved on. You now still live in Boone. So tell us real quick, like, how's life? Like, how's your family relationships? What is the near future have in store for Matt Corbi?
Sure. So my brother relationship, my mom relationships have been restored. The thing about my mom relationship is she's getting older, and now I'm clean and sober, and with it, I want more time with her, and I'm trying to have that time, because nobody's here forever, and so I feel like I'm kind of catching up with that, even with my brothers. And they're a little bit far away, so it doesn't help them being in Maryland. So I can't get there as much as I want, but we talk all the time on the phone. But life now is, you know, I'm working a full-time job. I'm trying to survive on my own with no help. I'm going back to school with Liberty, doing more theology classes online. And I'm even doing a veterinary technician program, because I was into biology, and I maybe want to go into vet medicine. I don't know. I feel God's leaving. I also wonder, why am I still in Boone? I mean, Samaritan's Purse is right in the backyard. I mean, where does God have me? I don't know. So, but I'm being patient every day and just and seeing what's next.
So you're back in college again.
Back in college because I love learning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Working your job. Yeah. You're basically living on your own, and you got a hope for the future. You started off this program saying, anybody out there struggling with addiction, I want you to understand that there is hope for freedom and sobriety.
Oh, there is absolutely 100% hope. Even I don't care how bad you are off or what situation you're in, or how bad your addiction is, you can get off of a pill. You can get off of whatever. You can be clean. I promise you that.
Yeah, for any guys that want to hear really how bad Matt was when we first got here and continued to be for some time, we had some good runs. Just call me later. I'll tell you all the gritty details. But Matt, man, you are a beacon of hope, man. And please continue to share your story with people. Point people in the direction of freedom. Man, is it needed. There are more people every day struggling with this thing. But folks, I hope you enjoyed the show and hearing my friend Matt share his story with us. But we'll be back next Thursday, 10:30. Don't miss it. And Matt, thanks again, man.
Thank you.
All right.
I wish the best.
See you next week.
See you.
Great
Great,
show,
buddy.
guys. Great
It was
show.
easy. It wasn't bad at all. Yeah. I think I rambled a little too much.
It's like I said.
You didn't ramble at all.
It's kind of like Bernard King. It's just